Yo, yo. Willis, I think you can let everybody in.
Okay.
Yeah, baby, by the way, because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Here come bad news, talking this and that. Well, give me all you got and don't hold it back. Well, I should probably warn you, I'll be just fine. No offense to you, don't waste your time. Here's why. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Bring me down, can't none bring me down. Your love is too high to bring me down. Can't none bring me down. I said, bring me down, can't none bring me down. Your love is too high to bring me down. Can't none bring me down. I said, clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Bring me down, can't none bring me down. Your love is too high.
All right, good morning, KW Milwaukee on a beautiful March 5th. Spring showers bring March flowers, hopefully. All right, so here we go. We have a handful of things for you up front. I'm going to go through training and education up front because there's a lot going to be coming at you. And here's what I know. When the industry itself is scraping at the bottom of the barrel for every transactional unit, we have to help you sharpen your sword and also think about how you articulate your value proposition. So we're going to launch some things this morning. They're going to help you think about that. And we're going to go more training and education intensive here heading into April, May, June, July, so that you guys are getting the ability to understand how to change your value proposition in an ever-evolving market. Does that make sense? I'm foreshadowing as to where we're going as an organization and leaning heavily more into training and education. Lindsay's going to have a few things up front, and then I'm going to spend the majority of my time helping you understand to break down in layman's terms the vision speech that went through last week, and I'm going to do it in a two-part series. The first part this week, I'm going to go through the U.S. economy and as to what's going on within our macro environment so that you can understand it, because here's what I know. We're in an election cycle, okay? And in election cycles, noise becomes loud. And you have to become the economist of choice for your clients so that they understand the reality of what's going on within their communities, okay? You have to become the economist of choice so that they understand what the reality is of what's going on within their communities, because it will take an expert to help someone navigate the current market of the moment. The question is, are you the expert or is your peer the expert? It's for you to decide. So what I'm going to go through today is to help you understand what's going on from a macro picture of what they discussed last week at the vision speech. Everything will be available to you along with my notes on the KW Realty MKE website. Cool. All right, so let's jump into it. Mission, vision, values, beliefs, and perspectives. We've spent a lot of time the last couple of weeks talking about building careers worth having, businesses worth owning, lives worth living, experiences worth giving, and legacies worth leaving. And I cannot think of a better way to showcase what that means and how that shows up live than the 70-ish people from in and around the Milwaukee area that chose to invest their time, energy, and resources in attending family reunion last week. Whether it was participating or leaning into panels, whether it was learning from industry peers across the country, whether it was celebrating our awards and success, and we have a lot of folks that received recognition throughout the Midwest region, which we will walk through next week as to where some of your peers landed within the Midwest, right? But the other part of it is making sure that we're having fun while we do it and that we're learning from the best. And whether it was spending time in a room for 4 hours with Tony Robbins or spending a morning with Mel Robbins in terms of getting our energy right and help in terms of how we go from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to go, to making sure that we're building camaraderie and building a fabric within our community. And I think that family reunion, in my opinion, is the best Keller Williams event there is. Why? Because you get to spend your time where you see it's best fit for you personally, for you professionally, and in a variety of other ways and how that shows up. And so I lead with that because I think it's an incredible example of how we help you build careers worth having, businesses worth owning, lives worth living, experiences worth giving, legacies worth leaving. Now, those things that happen in Vegas, some things happen in Vegas, it stays in Vegas, but we had a lot of fun. Went to Cirque shows, had great dinners, and we built incredible camaraderie amongst our KW community of the 70-ish folks that went. A little bit of a sneak preview. It's back in Vegas next year. February of 25, it is back in Vegas. It's back in Vegas. So if you're interested in participating, we'll make sure that we get you more information as to what that looks like. Sound good? Cool. All right. So your business will grow to the extent that you do. You will grow to the extent of those whom you surround yourself with. So what does that mean and how does that show up from a training and education standpoint? The March calendar is officially out. A handful of things I do want to point out. If you were paying attention last week during the vision speech, Keller Williams is coming out with a whole new program called Value Squared. That is showing up on March 7th, March 26th, and 2 dates in April. This is all around how you address your value and articulate your value proposition as it relates to co-broke compensation and what happens when you get into a scenario where you have to negotiate your buyer side compensation with your clients. How do you do it? How are you building a value proposition? What does that look like? It is a 3-hour training with Gary Keller, Jay Papazan, and Jason Abrams. Okay, more to come on that in a second. Handful of other things I want to call out as coming up here in the month of March, in the next 2 weeks, is Maureen and Friends is happening on March 15th at 10 a.m. with a special guest. Cool. So I talked a little bit about it, and some of you heard about it last week. How to articulate your value to your clients. Okay. This is a very intensive course all around how the industry is evolving and what it is that you will need to do and how you articulate your value if you get into a scenario where you need to discuss your value with clients as in how it may come into play during a negotiation in terms of your value. As I mentioned, it is on March 7th, March 26th, and 2 dates in April. We will be live streaming this from all of the offices on all 4 dates, okay? And you can also register and sign up as it is virtual. It is a virtual contented platform. Make sense? To help you better understand what this looks like, I'm going to showcase a video where Jason talks about the program that they've built and how they will help you through this process.
Hey gang, Jason Abrams coming to you, and I want to talk about a very important topic. That topic is value. Our industry is ever evolving. Today, more than ever, real estate agents must understand not only what their value is, but how to explain that value to a potential client. You see, the challenge of all businesses is that we have to articulate our value before our customer or client ever experiences it. And that's what our course Value Squared is all about. We're going to be covering from top to bottom. What is our value to both buyers and sellers? How is that value explained? How do we build trust with clients during and after and even before the transaction? And most importantly, we're going to talk about cooperative compensation. What are the words that we use around it, and how do we think about our strategies? Friends, Value Squared is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to assess where we are, but more importantly, about planning where we're going. Join us. Click the link below and it's going to bring up all the dates that we're going to be teaching it. Gary, Jay, and I will be coming you directly from KWRI. We're excited about it. We hope you are too.
So it's coming, yes, J9.
Breakout session with Jay Papasan. He kind of was we were the beta group that we rolled this whole thing out, and it is absolutely incredible. You definitely all need to be there and watching that.
So just to reiterate J9's comments, she was a part of a group that was participating in a test pilot at Family Reunion with this program with Jay Papasan. She thought it was an incredible, valuable content in a way in how we articulate value and negotiate what to say in a co-broke compensation scenario where we have to understand what our value is. So March 7th, which is this week, Thursday, March 26th, which is the Tuesday. And then there are 2 dates in April forthcoming. So I highly, highly, highly recommend. And all of this will be streamed in office, and you can also do it from home. Sound good? Beautiful. Also, next week, Monday, the 11th from 3 to 5, we have 20 plus teams in and around the Milwaukee area that are hosting a bit like what we would call speed dating for teams. I get this question all the time. Should I join a team? Should I start a team? What does a team look like? What is it? How does it help? If you want to know, go over to the Zufari Conference Center and meet with the teams to help them understand. Here's the number one question. If you're sitting there thinking, should I join a team or should I not join a team? The question is a team going to help you convert your database at a higher conversion rate than you otherwise would have on your own? And it has nothing to do about money. Many people come to me and ask me about money. And I'm like, it's not... You're going to spend the money, whether you're spending it or the team's spending it. You got to take the money out of the equation. The equation becomes a conversion ratio. And there's a reason why teams are successful in terms of the way they have leadership, the way they have accountability, the way they provide structure, the way they provide models, the way they provide systems. And if you're interested in joining a team, by albeit, we'll see you Monday, March 11th at the Zufari Conference Center. And here's also something I would say from a commentary standpoint. It's very interesting to me how the industry views teams. Okay, here's what I mean by that. Most platforms view teams as competition. And in our environment, we view it as a way we add value is helping teams find talent, because talent is ultimately the differentiator between businesses, right? And so what we're trying to do is provide a platform for teams to help identify talent. And we're also trying to provide a platform for those of you that may be thinking about a team. What team might be the right fit for me? Because joining a team is like dating a spouse. Both sides have to say yes for it to work. If the team says no and the spouse says yes, it doesn't work. If the spouse says yes and the team says no, it doesn't work. For those of you who have friends that went to med school, it's also a very similar analogy to matching. You have to match with the right team, the right environment, the right energy, the right enfuego in order for it to be a match made in heaven. Make sense? So Monday, March 11th, Opportunity Knocks. Feel free to check it out. All right. Another thing coming up March 13th, 10 a.m. via Zoom. Maureen is going to lead a panel of your peers in and around the Milwaukee area that are going to be talking through how they are negotiating co-bro compensation. How is it coming up in negotiations? How are people leveraging it in listing presentations? How are people getting their value through buyers if they need to go offset the delta on what is being offered versus what they believe their value to be? So March 13th at 10 a.m., Maureen's going to lead a panel of her peers in and around the Milwaukee area, all around how compensation is being leveraged in negotiations with both buyers and sellers. Make sense? See, you're noticing a theme? Training and education. Time to sharpen the axe. Okay, here we go. Also coming up is Save the Date. Jeff Glover. For those of you who were paying attention to the vision speech, he was on stage at Family Reunion all around his 5-step listing presentation in order how to win. He's coming to Milwaukee to give that on April 29th. Ironically, I did not know he was going to be on stage at Family Reunion giving a preview to it, and we had already had him booked April 29th at the War Memorial right downtown. So save the date, April 29th. Lastly, as we talked about the serving committee, we are collecting this month camper collection items. You can see here by locations what we are looking to collect. Feel free to bring it off at any of the front desks as we are trying to help those within foster care get to camp with things that they might need. Often an overlooked group within our community of kids is kids in foster care and how we help them provide incredible experiences heading into the summer. So would encourage you guys to participate in terms of helping support our serving committee and how we help serve our communities that we support. Cool? All right. Don't get too excited today, guys. All right. Tech Tuesday, amp up your client touches. Lindsay's got a lot of new stuff she's going to go over for you.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Thank you. Oh my God, you guys, the energy is great in here. So we are constantly trying to look for new ways in which you guys can engage your sphere and build up your 36 touch marketing plan. And I'm really excited to share some new materials that we have added to the Marketing Concierge that are going to help you do that. So the first couple that we have are a couple of new 12 direct campaigns. And so last year we did about 18 different postcards that you could share out with your database, share on social media, email out. And my goal every year is to have more and more of those. So the two newest ones that we have, like always, we have the 2024 Brewers baseball schedule. So if you want to send this out to your sphere, to your neighborhood, whoever, that one is good to go, ready to send out. And then new for this year, we have hiking trails in southeastern Wisconsin. So the reason that I love this one so much is that you can send it out in springtime or really any time of the year. So these are just going to detail some really great hiking trails that we have in our communities. So like always, these are available as a postcard that you can send out through command. It's an email smart plan built out and ready to go in the smart plan library. And you can also take that image and you can share it on social media, share it on any channel that you so choose. We also have the MLS market updates. So this is a little bit more of a zhuzhed up MLS market update. You know, you get those emails every single month with that data. But if you wanted to share that on social media or even email that out, if you're looking for more of a specific market update email on the MLS, you know, the 4-county Metro Milwaukee area, then this is the email smart plan for you. We put these together every single month. It's in the smart plan library that you can grab and go and schedule that out to your database. So if you're looking for any of the Milwaukee email content, as I mentioned, it's in command. It's in the Smart Plan library. So if you go up to the search bar and you type in KW Milwaukee, you are going to find all of these. So you're going to find the baseball schedule. You're going to find the hiking trails, the MLS market updates. You'll also find all of the holiday emails too. So if you're looking to send out, St. Patrick's Day, Happy Easter, any of those to your database, those are also put together as an email Smart Plan. So again, KW Milwaukee, add that in the search bar and you'll find all of the content that we create for you guys. This is something I'm really excited about. Shout out to Bella Bortolotti. She actually came up with this idea and she put all of this together. So we have actually put together some social media branding posts. So this is really for those of you who are looking to really amp up your social media and you don't really know what to post or how it should look. She's put together some really consistent looking posts, and there's about like 15 of these posts that we'll put together for you that you can use on your social media. So you can choose from 4 different templates. So we've got more of a cream tan look, black, navy, red, or BYOB, bring your own branding. So shout out to Willis and Bella for coming up with that. But they're all very cohesively themed social media posts to really take your social media channels to the next level. It's a way for you to stay consistent, showcase your expertise. We also have some Term Tuesday posts. So it's a way for you to educate your followers on social media with some of those common real estate terms. What is a mortgage? What is earnest money? What does equity mean? So we have these social media posts that we'll put together with all of your information, your headshots, and we'll provide those to you if you're looking to really amp up your social media. So this has been added to the Marketing Concierge. So if you go to our website, scroll down, you're going to see that option in here. So the QR code is going to take you directly to the form as well. But that is now in there. It's ready to utilize. So go for it, you guys. Amp up your social media. Really excited for that. Switching gears a little bit. We have a new W-9 form. So the MCA's office wanted to make sure that we made everybody aware that, if you have a referral, you're grabbing this new W-9 form. This has always been in our website under the Agent Hub. Click on miscellaneous forms. It's going to take you to a Google Drive folder. You'll see a folder for office W-9 forms. You'll just see 2 in there now. One for all North Shore, Innovation, and Lake Country agents. And then there's the Southwest one. But you'll want that KWMKE 2024 W-9 form. So that has been updated and it is in that Google folder now. And then we've got a lot of March trainings for tech and marketing coming up this month. So we've got some lead generation with paid ads this Thursday. We're talking about creating email designs in Command. And then later this month on the 21st, we're going to do a spring database cleanup. So always a great time to talk about cleaning up your database and ways in which you can do that in Command. So a lot of great content, you guys. Really highly encourage you guys to utilize the assets that we have and that we provide. They're built out, they're ready to go. So please utilize these, take these, and do with them as you wish. And that's it. Thank you.
Sweet. Leverage Lindsay, leverage Lindsay. Too many of you talk to me all the time saying, I don't know what to do. You're stuck in the mud. Leverage Lindsay. If you don't know what to do, just do something. Something is better than nothing. You got me? All right, here we go. So next 15 or so minutes, I'm going to break down the vision speech for you in what I tried to do in the most layman's terms possible. Okay. Here's why I think this is ultimately really, really important for you. And I led with this in the beginning. Okay. In an election cycle, the noise is going to become unbearable. And quite frankly, what your clients perceive to be true or not true is getting incredibly difficult. Would you agree? So you have an opportunity to be the economist of choice within your community to help them decipher between truth and fiction. Okay. And so I'm broke this down into a two-part series. One, to help you understand the macro picture of what they discussed within the vision speech. And I didn't take every slide. I just took what I thought was the most pertinent slides that you could take as digestible nuggets. Part two is going to be, how does the macro economy impact what it is that we do as agents? And there's a lot of really good, useful information as to what you should be thinking about as to where people are finding homes, where people are finding their agents, where people are finding or what they're looking at from a website perspective. Lots of really good data that I'm all going to share with you next week. Make sense? So the vision speech part one is this, all about the US economy and what you should be paying attention to. This is one of the biggest pieces of information that I gather from in order to take back to bring to you. Other people like Mark Epley and a variety of other sources provide me really good local data, but this is a big macro picture as to what's going on within the US economy. Okay. I'm going to lead with this as a general disclaimer around some general commentary that you're about to hear. First, there's never been a better time to be the economist of choice. I've said this 3 times already this morning. In an election cycle, noise will be insane. We have to be the voice of reason and truth for our communities. It takes an expert to tell people how to move in this market. You must do the activities that cause that to happen. Otherwise, your business will look like the market. For perspective, the market is down 33% from 2 years ago. There are many people within our KW community whose businesses are up from 2 years ago. They did the activities to make that happen. There are also people within our KW community whose business is down 33% because their business rises and falls with the tide. You have an opportunity to not be a part of the tide, okay? You must do the activities that cause that to happen. Otherwise, your business will look like the market, and you don't want your business to look like the market. Would you agree? Perfect. So let's get into it. The numbers that drive the US economy, I'm going to break down these first 7 metrics first, starting with home sales. Home sales on an annualized basis, here's what you need to be paying attention to. From 15 to 22, it was an incredible, just call it 8-year run. On average, we were looking at around 5.5 million transactional units across the US. It peaked in 2021 at 6.1 million. Now, we think that's really good. And if you look back from the run up from 2000 to basically 2008, it's not nearly as good as the run up back then, but it was still a very, very healthy run up the last 8 years. And then what happened? From 2021 to 2023, we lost 33% of the transactional units, which is roughly 2 million units across the US, went poof, right? So 33% of the transactional units disappeared in the matter of 2 years. Here was an interesting comment Gary made from the stage. The last 2 years, the industry was drunk with success, and the hangover now stinks. Okay? I'm sure many of you can relate on a Saturday morning. The industry was drunk with success, and the hangover stinks. What do your activities look like in order for you to rebound? The floor has been defined by those who had to move. The floor was defined by those who had to move, and they believe the floor was in 2023 at 4.1 transactional units. The good news is we scraped the bottom because it won't be worse than last year. However, don't expect a slingshot bounce back, okay? And I've been talking about this for the last 3 months, if you've been paying attention a little bit, right? However, don't be mistaken because we are in winter right now, okay? Do not be mistaken, we are in winter. Here's some historical perspective for that. From the peak at 7.1 million transactional units in 2005 down to 2008 when we hit 4.1 million units, which is the same as to what we hit last year, okay? Look at the ramp up period it took to get back to a threshold of giving above 5 million. It took about 5 years. So the point being is the tide, they're expecting to rise slightly this year, but it's not as if it's just going to come back and all of a sudden do 6 million units. Does that make sense? We are in winter. You have to accept that reality. Now, Home prices, couple things to point out. The blue line is the long-term historical trend of 4% of appreciation over the last 70 years. Okay. In 21 and 22, we were anywhere between 20% above the trend line. We have reverted back in 23 to be 9.3% above the trend line, which is not horrible relative to where we were 36 months ago, which was unsustainable appreciation. Okay. If you look at the annualized appreciation rates, they looked at segments of several years. 23 to 24 was 1.6% nationally. Now, mind you, in Milwaukee, it was actually accelerated a little bit, up about, depending on the community, up 5 to 10%. Okay, 20 to 22 was up 12.5%, and 12 to 19 was up 6.4%. What they're predicting, which we will see here in a second, is because of the pressure on rates, what it's doing to affordability, it will stymie appreciation growth here over the next several years, which is actually okay. Okay, because of the pressure on affordability, it will stymie some appreciation here. Now, total market volume, handful of things to pay attention to here, and I'm going to call them out and highlight them for you. Back in 2006, there were 1.36 million agents across the US. Between 2007 to 2008, we lost 140,000 associates. Okay. Interestingly enough, if you follow the dotted line of blue is agent count within the US, and the bar graph is transactional volume. What do you notice? Agents getting out of the business lags the speed in which that the business slows down. We've talked a little bit about this in terms of transactional units per agent and transactional volume per agent. The reason why it was the lowest in the industry last year, hint, hint, which we'll get into next week, is because those getting out of the business was slower than the rate in which that the business slowed down. Something else to point out, 2023 was basically 2.1 trillion in transactional volume. If you look across since 1999, it would have been the third or fourth best transactional volume year ever. Okay. That's what the purple dotted line is across this historical context of roughly 30 years. So from a volume perspective, it was really healthy. This is part of the perception where our industry is drunk on success right now, because they're still making very good money because of the appreciation levels and the volume. The problem is if you're not tracking to your transactional units, which is why I always challenge you to think about your units. The market gives you volume. The agents control their units. Their units is where the game is won and lost. The volume ebbs and flows. Right. And so it's somewhat of a deceptive factor, because if your unit volume was down 40%, but you made more money last year because you worked in a higher average price point, you're actually being deceived as to what your activities ultimately are doing. And you need to get back to focusing on your transactional units. Agent count in 2022 was 1.58 million, the highest ever. We are just now starting to see the decline. The roughly about 120,000 agents left the business last year. They're expecting about another 100,000 this year. Hence the commentary around owning your activities and your transactional units so that you aren't swept up in the wave of those who exit the business. Okay. So what is the commentary here? Find a way to hang on. It was the third best volume year in history of the industry, and adjusted for inflation, it was the eighth best market from a volume perspective. Yet we need to make sure that we're finding a way to hang on by controlling your unit count. Focus on your units and the families that you serve, the people that you serve. All right, mortgage rates, a handful of commentary to make up here. This is, I thought, a very, very incredible slide to showcase with clients, and I'm going to help walk you through why that's important. If you look at the green dotted line, it's the historical mortgage rate average from 1990 to 2023. That number is 5.9%. 5.9% is the average from 1990 to today, is the average mortgage rate in the industry. If you go back to 1972 to today, the average is 7.74%. So if you look at where we sit today, roughly right around 7%, 6.8, you can see we're hovering between the historical average going back to 1972 and the average of what it's been since 1990 to say rates are relatively where they should be from a mean perspective if you look at the historical averages. Okay. The reason why this is important is because we're coming out of unprecedented historically low rates. At the same time, we walked out of unprecedented rate hikes. And we have a problem with recency bias and helping our clients understand that the recency bias is not reality. And reality needs to be rooted in perspective. Perspective is an important slide. This is an incredibly important slide to help people understand perspective as to where the rate environment is. Now, let's take a look at affordability. Affordability is the percentage of household income dedicated to owner-occupied homes. A couple things to point out here. The orange line is the principal and interest as a percentage of income. You can see how that rises and falls over a period of time based on a variety of economic factors. Okay, in 2006, 32% of a household's income, principal and interest, someone's principal and interest went to their household income as a percentage. In 2012, it dipped to 17%. So from 2006 to 2012, what did we see? We had the housing crisis, which caused a lot of levers to be pulled. Then in 2020, it was 18%. What we're seeing in 2023 is 32%. Last year, 32% of a household's income went towards their housing. Two major factors at this. Might that be? Don't think too hard. Thank you, Mauder. Interest rates and what? Pricing. Both went up. Okay. So the rate environment plus appreciation is the cause for why affordability is feeling pinched. We'll talk a little bit too about inflationary pressures around healthcare and student loans and a variety of other things that we need to be paying attention to because this will have an impact on demand. Okay. The other thing is you have to expect 27% is the historical average over our lifetime. So the fact that we're at 32% is not extreme. It's just a metric that we're paying attention to because this does impact demand on how people enter the market. Okay. Now let's jump into the US economy. GDP, okay. The last 2 years was a little bit of a back to reality type situation. Last year it was at 2.5%. They are not expecting inflation to go down for a variety of reasons, and I'll help you understand that why here in a second. Two things as it relates to that. One, we are in an election cycle. Presidents are not elected in bad economies. Presidents are elected in good economies, so expect levers to be pulled to heat up the economy heading into an election cycle, okay? The other impact as it relates to GDP is unemployment. And you have to understand in 2023 at a 3.6% unemployment rate, 4% is a gainfully employed economy. So what this means is the reason why inflation is going to continue in 2023 as it relates to what you pay for products and services is because the labor market is so incredibly tight. The cost of production of services or products is going up because of the labor market. So inflation will rise because of the competitive labor and because we're in an election cycle. And so they won't do things relative to the economy to slow that down. Something to pay attention to. Okay. Now, unemployment, last thing relates to unemployment going back to 1960, you can see how it rises and falls. Here was the point to this. It was the fastest slingshot we've ever seen in the US economy in terms of unemployment. Okay. It was also the fastest slingshot of it going up and it coming down from 2020 to 2023. The labor market is one of the biggest drivers as to why we're feeling the inflationary pressures within the economy, the macro economy. Now, personal savings rate, also something to be paying attention to. Why? It impacts down payments. You have to understand, it impacts down payments, the ability of someone to get into a home. In 2012, it was right around 8%. Since 1959, the historical average was 8% of a household was their personal savings rate. Okay. Since 2000, it was 5%. What we saw then in 2021 was 11.1%. Why? Because the government was a printing press of money. So then what happens in 2023 when we saw the inflationary pressures, their stimulus money stopped, all the tax credits, employee retention tax credits stopped, everything stopped. What happened? People got drunk with their spending habits because of the amount of stimulus within the economy, which caused the personal savings rate to go down because they were now actually living in reality of what products and goods actually cost, which is now putting some pressure in terms of people's personal savings rates, which and the reason this is important is this correlates to the people's ability to have a down payment. Okay. So we need to pay attention because it put basically what I said, it's a demand metric. Make sense? Inflation. Here's the commentary on inflation. They're projecting it to go anywhere between 2 to 4%. The election could throw that off. There are some things going on in the macroeconomic environment that we need to be paying attention to, but their target is 2% heading into 24 and 25, which is healthy for our business. Okay. Up 6.4% is not healthy. Now, inflation as it relates to affordability and perspective. This is an incredibly interesting slide. Okay. I hear you. It stresses you out. Here's why it should stress you out. And this is where I'm going to look at you as the holistic person. Okay. How you spend your money and what you do with your money is incredibly important. And how your clients view you with how you spend your money is incredibly important. And I don't think you guys think about that perception very often. Okay. The worst thing right now in terms of inflationary pressures that we're seeing and in terms of affordability is on school and sickness. We have to be thinking about where we're spending our dollars as you send kids to school, mainly post-secondary education, such as college, because student debt is a real thing and it continues to be a burden on people. The other thing, and they talked a lot about health. Health equals wealth. Over the course of your lifetime, if you aren't thinking about your health, hospital services are up 238% since 2000. Healthcare is a real pinch on people's affordability. So I share this with you from an inflationary standpoint and affordability as a way of looking at you as a holistic person to say, we need to make sure you're taking care of your health situation because it will impact your ability long-term as to what your financial future looks like. Make sense? Beautiful. Lastly is consumer sentiment. Okay. This is basically the consumer's confidence level within the economic outlook within the industry. In January of 2024, the consumer sentiment sat around 79%. The historical mean is 80. What that basically means is we're not amazingly bad, but we're not amazingly good. Okay. There was a bounce back from where we were in June of 23 and a major bounce back from where we were in June of 22. What happened in June of 22? Testing you a little bit. February, Ukraine happened. At the same time, the stimulus ended and people felt the real inflationary pressures when they went to the grocery store, just using a simple example. You went to buy a carton of eggs and a carton of eggs went to $9, right? So the consumer sentiment, and I'm using that as an example because it was recent, so you can understand where you were feeling those pressures. For those of us who have kids in daycare, we felt the pressures of daycare, which is why consumer sentiment was so low in June of 22. Sitting here in January of 24, now going back recently, the outlook is far significantly better where we sit today in January of 24 than where it was in June of 22. However, on a historical average, we're basically, the consumer environment is basically saying we're average. And average is not a bad thing coming out of where we were. Make sense? So there was a lot of stuff that quite frankly, I know sometimes goes way over your head. Here's my overall general commentary. Okay. My overall general commentary is this: pay attention to your units and your activities because you can control your outcome. Okay. The industry is not nearly as good of a rose-colored glasses as people make it out to believe. And you have to be real with that in the situation because we are still in winter as it relates to our macroeconomic environment. Okay. Don't be overly optimistic, but don't be overly negative either. Be the person that's calm in the storm. And how you see that storm through and how you hang in there through this time is ultimately where, when the business bounces back in 2 to 3 years and those transactional units get above 5 million, you're able to take advantage of it because you gained market share during these times. Okay. The other thing I would tell you that I'm paying attention to from a macroeconomic environment is the affordability aspect of it is real. I've talked about this a lot. Demographics are in our favor. If you just simply look at those from 21 to 35 that are entering the housing market, the demand piece of demographics is really favorable. However, the unfavorable piece of those demand demographics is the affordability issue in people's personal savings rates and their ability to get out from their student loan debt, their ability to get out from living with their parents, their ability to make good decisions of what they do with their money so that we can help them get into homes. I also think, if you haven't been paying attention to this, I think a way, and this is just my own personal nugget, that you can be the economist of choice with people is helping them think through their financial decisions to help them get to where they want to, which is ultimately to buy their next house or sell their next house. How you help them navigate that, I think, will be incredibly important as to how you become the economist of choice for your clients and how they are able to divulge sensitive information as it relates to their financial picture, and for you to then create a clear game plan as to how them get to where their end game is. I think those that do that in the next 2 to 3 years will take an exorbitant amount of market share. I really do, because I think right now people aren't knowing what to do or how to get. They know that if they want to buy the next house or they want to get into that trade up or they want to just buy their first house, they're not sure where to go. And how we help them navigate that picture of what that looks like and what they need to do and help them understand their reality. If you're able to help articulate that value, I think you will take an inordinate amount of market share in the next 2 to 3 years. So that's my own personal commentary and my challenge to the group. Sound good? Beautiful. Next week, I will give you the impacts of how this is impacting our industry. What does it look like where people are buying and selling? That will help you derive activities that you should be doing based on what the data tells us of where people are buying and where they're selling. How people are interviewing agents, all those sorts of things to help you think about the activities you do and how you may need to course correct in order to take an inordinate amount of market share. Make sense? Sweet. I didn't want to inundate you with too much today. Cool? Awesome. And for full clarity, everything in yellow is things I heard from the presentation that I transposed into the presentation. All of the slides are available to you on kwrealtymke.com. They'll be available this afternoon. If you have questions, I'm happy to help you navigate what that looks like. So part 2 next week, Tuesday, is how this impacts our industry. Sound good? All right. With that, it's a beautiful day on March 5th. Thanks, guys, for showing up. Lake Country crew will let you jump over to the Lake Country meetup. Josh will be leading the innovation crew, and Ross and I will be leading into the North Shore weekly download here in the North Shore for those that want to stick around. Guys, have a beautiful day. Thanks, guys. Yeah.
This is Eric.
Hi, Eric.
He's from Bank of England.
Yeah, nice.
He works in the same office as Jake.
Oh, nice. Nice to meet you, Eric.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
All right, Trefford, I'm flipping it over to you.
Okay, good morning, everybody. We'll do the weekly download again today. I want to start out first with repeating something that Peter G came up to me the other week and said, which I think really frames the market that we're in very, very well. So he said about 18 to 24 months ago, there was this understanding between buyers and sellers of how a transaction was gonna go. Sellers knew that they were gonna put their house on the market for whatever price they really wanted, whatever condition, kind of. And that buyers were most likely gonna pay over asking, little to no contingencies, and just kind of stay in line until the transaction closed, right? Like, everybody kind of went into it knowing this is what we have to do in order to just get this house. And I think what we're seeing now is sellers still have that mindset that they can just put their house on the market for whatever price they want, and they're gonna get a no contingent offer for cash. And buyers now think that they can load up offers with all the contingencies, not give anything, and get the house. So there's this disconnect of what we really need to do in order to get a deal done. And I think we should all take that sort of mindset as we go into these conversations with buyers and sellers to help reframe expectations of, yes, we still might have that sort of outcome. I think we're all seeing it where you have to give up everything in order to get the house. And we're also seeing it where homes are sitting and sellers just simply aren't willing to accept certain contingencies, or you're getting a lot of pushback where it really isn't warranted. The other thing, just to start the conversation, Joey Carini is kind of stealing some of my thunder on Facebook. And as I say that, I just got logged out of it.
It's down.
Down.
I did too.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Oh, no. But essentially, he was starting the conversation of like what's been happening, and I saw a lot of people writing 40,000 over, no inspection, losing in like the 400 range of Brookfield, or I think Lisa Eastman said, I got an FHA buyer, accepted offer, very little over asking, had contingencies. So we're really seeing a wide variety of things happening. From all of you, kind of what was last week like? Did anyone have any listing consults, listing appointments, taking anything to market?
Yes.
What was your experience? So what area, what price point, and then what was the experience?
Maybe it was. Well, new listing, 2 new listings, Glendale, multiple offers, say 7. Price point 300.
Okay.
Selling way over 10% over. No contingencies, cash. One offer like that, all the others with buffers or appraisal. Half of them had an inspection. Only 7 had nothing. And you go to Menominee Falls and we have something out there, 300. 40 showings, 2 offers.
Interesting. Condition of the house?
Good, cute, nice.
Okay.
Menominee Falls,
Yeah.
different, different than the North Shore. It is, the expectations are different. 2 offers, over asking, full contingencies.
Seller's happy?
No.
Okay. And there's that disconnect, right? Over asking.
Why are
2
the
offers.
offers without inspections?
Did you have that conversation during the listing appointment?
Yeah, but
about
those people
free-
had just sold houses too without inspections.
Ah,
They had to win.
so they were
that.
expecting.
They had to win that. They had to win that way, so.
We're running
Yeah.
the same thing.
So if you wanna win, yes, it's a double-edged sword, some of this.
Where did they buy?
Menominee Falls,
So is it a price? Part of it is?
yeah, higher price.
We're running the same thing though, where Yes, buyers are having to give up everything, but then the same person selling is getting full contingency, but it's different price points in different areas. We ran into that with many clients.
So they were expecting to not have to worry about inspection, which is why they didn't opt to do a pre-listing home inspection. Have you had the inspection
Right,
yet?
right,
or-
the 300, that, I mean, you're at a different, sort of a different audience that
Yeah.
doesn't want to spend the money to,
It's affordability.
yeah.
Was pricing it at 300 with the intention of it going well over, or do you think that was pretty close to market value?
Close.
Okay.
I thought we got more than it, I thought.
Okay.
We're still negotiating. Still, because there's an inspection and guess what? That inspection's 15 days. People, for God's sake. So, but you know what? This is why they need us more than ever. They cannot do it alone.
Molitor, I saw your social media post the other day, or just this morning maybe.
Yeah.
Fox Point accepted offer. What was that like?
Yeah, my house was updated nicely, not like trendy updated, but classic, there's gonna be timeless updates. They were asking 585,
Yep.
they had a lot of action, but no offers. We wrote like a tad above asking, and they countered us back. And
They countered you back up to go higher than,
higher,
with no offers.
no other offers, and yeah, they expected it to go wild.
Great fact.
And like, all right, you know, we have a ton of action, and my people ended up, so we ended up taking it, but yeah, no other offer. I'm like, there's no other offers. We play hardball, but they're like, well, we like it and it fit the bill for them, so like, screw it, let's just be done.
And then contingencies outside of that?
Yeah, going through, I mean, we're going after everything.
Okay.
We had a little buffer, yeah, a little kickback on inspection, but we, that furnace is a little carrier, so I think we'll tip it over.
Okay.
I'm a real estate pro, and we sat on the market about a week and a half, and we ended up with 2 offers, pretty much worth a piece, but one had an inspection and one didn't. My sellers ended up choosing the one with the inspection, just because the agent on that transaction was a little bit more organized, and the buyer just seemed a little bit more stable than the other. So there is that component still too, of professionalism from us, that the seller even sees and commented, I didn't even have to bring that up. The price was pretty relative and everything else.
Okay, so it just took a little longer.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were right in market.
There's another thought or something that's going on, which is the list price. Some agents, I think, just price it at a lower number, know what they're gonna get as offers. I can tell you, I'm sorry, John, but earlier this year, we had a white paper listing, white paper trade, a very easy place to sell a house. Right, you put on the market, you can sell it. We were thinking 475, but we pushed it all the way up to 515 for the list price. Sure enough, it goes the whole weekend with no offers, and then Monday, 3 people come up because they now know they don't have to pay wildly over. They now know they can get an inspection, and sure enough, it's sold for 515 with an inspection. We just give money back for repairs. But the question is, if we had listed for 475, would we have gotten 515 with no inspection? You know, right, and this is where I think when you're a listing agent and you don't know, so we wrote an offer, we wrote sight unseen on a house in the Highlands. We'll see, because it was listed at 425 and they're like, okay. So we just tried to get in there and, because we knew that once it went to market, we would never get it, my fire. 45. I don't know, the list price is really, to me,
I think you're seeing, because I've seen a lot of.
no, in Tosa, and we've been banging against Tosa, Tosa's just like what, 10% over this price, or hoping maybe get it. Removing contingencies. Yeah. Sight unseen is something I've tried to do recently, which is really dangerous. But, which we had to come up with another document saying, you know, this is not.
I was just gonna add that, say I lost in River West with some buyers that. A duplex that I thought was intentionally underpriced to get kind of a bidding war going.
Okay.
Because I had shown a different duplex in River West that I thought was overpriced, I actually thought they kind of should have been flopped, like the other way around. And so we lost, and I asked the listing agent, do you have any feedback from my buyers, just so I can kind of relay it, and he said, it went 35 over. So.
Okay,
So I think kind of what we're talking about is honestly, the list price, which in the past, I felt like we trusted to some degree that it was, people were trying to price it, what they think it's worth. I feel like now the list price is all part of the market strategy, you know. Are they pricing low, are they pricing high? And some agents tend to have trends. If you look and you actually look at their history, you can actually match it. But then again, sometimes the agent doesn't actually choose the price and sometimes the seller chooses the price. And so then you go, this is the one time that the seller got the agent to increase the price.
well, I think the other thing we're running up against is the buyers that we've all been working with for 3 years.
Yeah.
Who have that recency bias of, we gotta drop our pants to get this house. When in actuality, maybe they don't, right? But they do it. And then you also are working with the buyers who are brand new to the market, who aren't ready to do that yet, right? Like I was showing duplexes this weekend, 300 and above, in Greenfield and Bayview. And the buyer made a comment, he's like, yeah, it was listed at 325. He's like, yeah, this would be better if it was 250. I'm like, dude, yeah, this is not the same thing. Like, what are you talking about? He's like, where are people getting all this money? That was one of his comments too. He's like, where do people get the money for this stuff? How does it even make sense? So you just need those buyers to almost be conditioned or trained. Broken down a little bit. But at the same time, you know what's on the other side, right? So I guess to Charlie's point, like the how to move. Teaching these people how to move versus the sale piece. Okay.
Well, I think that what you were saying about 475 versus 515, I didn't see a ton of that with buyers, and it's, oh, you know, maybe it's. People are showing, it's gonna go over crazy terms, we're reviewing Sunday, and come Sunday at 3 p.m. coming up,
No.
we don't have any.
Right.
And my conversation with buyers has been really to really put against the wall, even if they press push it out, I want to be ready, because it's Sunday at 3 p.m. comes, there's nobody else at the table, well, let's write out this price, we're very comfortable with. You know, standard, and a lot of the times, we accept it, how they accept by with contingencies.
The other, I just had this discussion last night, because we went a while and then I'll we're back. And that is, if you win, guess what, buyer? You paid the most out of anybody in the room. That's called winning. Once in a while, that one friend at the party, like 3 years ago, that said they got a house for some number, it was this, that, and the other, and they were lower than the highest number. No, when you win, you pay the most, you give the best terms, you are the winner. So I feel like everybody wants to know that their offer was $1,000 more than the buyer's offer.
Yeah.
And then they got something else too, you know, and buyers just have to do it. Like they just like, oh, that's probably. I mean,
It's not focus on our path, don't worry about what the other buyer.
Yeah.
Let's focus on what you're comfortable with, what you think are.
that's what it is. We're always.
Safety net of the appraisal if there is one.
Yeah, that's the other piece that I've been talking to a lot of buyers about is like, if you're not necessarily comfortable with just ratcheting up price like crazy. Let's talk about how we can get creative with these contingencies, because that can sometimes be the difference as well. So don't be afraid to lean into that and see maybe their comfort level is higher with a huge inspection buffer because their family is in the trades, right? Like my uncle knows how to do anything, so I'm not worried about that. He's already said he's gonna help us. Okay, $10,000 buffer, anything above that, you're cool negotiating for, but anything below, uncle's okay fixing, yeah, that's awesome. It means we can keep within our price range. So don't be afraid to exercise some of that stuff. And again, it's having those expectations and those conversations with buyers from the jump, and then reiterating it as you're going through is gonna be really important. This is Eric from Bank of England. He's a lender partner that I work with often. And so I wanted him to come in. He's got some interesting information about obviously where rates are at. But the other thing I'll start off with, you mentioned this, that I thought was interesting. What did you say about some of the buyers that have resurfaced? What's different about the buyers that have resurfaced?
Yeah, so Ross had asked me to give kind of the lender's insight of what we're seeing from our side of the table. And back in February, I found this very interesting. We had, or I personally had 30 applications, brand new in February. And these were all brand new buyers. I would say 2/3 were brand new to the market. of going in, looking to buy their first home, right? And I would say 1/3 of the buyers that I spoke with were new to me and new to the realtor, but had been shopping for the last year or two. And so I found that very interesting that it was either they had a bad experience, or they were beat down by the market, or they had a lender or a realtor that left the business. And it was a combination of all of the above. And so what's interesting too is of all this activity that I've been seeing, these are new people. So I have yet to see the influx of people that were pre-approved last year or the year prior. They still feel like they're holding off and waiting for maybe things to correct. And it's almost like they didn't learn their lesson from last year, right? Waiting for prices to go up, waiting for rates to come down. And so it's just been very interesting for me to see that type of transition into this year, where it's kind of looking like it's gonna be the same problems we had.
I think,
last.
can you mention too, I know you've talked about your refinances have picked up. How recent are some of those refinances? I think this is interesting too, and we can certainly have a conversation with buyers about this, or rates are still higher than people are comfortable with. But how recent are some of these refis?
Yeah, I would say anyone that purchased at the tail end of last year, so we'll call it September to November. They were at the peak of interest rates when we were starting to talk 8% or greater. And so we've already had a handful of people that, we had one actually last month, he and me has made his first payment. And we dropped his rate by 1.25%. And with the appreciation, he put 10% down in October. In January, had the additional 10% in equity from the appraisal and dropped PMI.
Didn't even make a mortgage payment drop, that's wild.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know about that.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're having a lot more conversations, and again, like the people that did buy, they had that understanding, right, of I might be pushing my comfort on payment, but I know that I can correct that in the future. And so we're having a lot more people that we're doing a market recap with on a consistent basis to say, hey, we're trending in the right direction. We might not be there yet, but in the coming months, there should be a really good opportunity to refinance.
And then what about, things you're seeing when? Like, what did your synopsis look like last week for buyers that got accepted?
Yeah,
Conversations.
I broke this down on kind of a monthly basis. So we had, in the month of February, there was 20 people that rolled offers. We only had 6 that were accepted. And the people that were winning offers were the ones that had a lot of those contingencies with a gap, or were dropping contingencies. So some of the things that were really helping get our offers accepted were the quick close, right? So 21 days is kind of the old 30, and even then we're seeing closings that are 18 days. So sellers that are looking to move on to the next thing, or maybe they already have an offer in the contract, they are looking to close as quickly as they can. So 18 days is kind of becoming that new trend. Appraisal gaps and inspection gaps, the average number that we're seeing there is about 5,000. And then escalation clauses have started to come back from what I'm seeing. So a lot of people that they know that they're willing to go potentially 50 above asking, but they don't want to start there. Right, so they'll put in 25 above asking with the escalation up to 50. And again, this is very case by case too, and that's where having that expert agent is very helpful, because I've seen people go 25 over and they're the only offer on the table. I see, what's the point of doing that, right? So very case by case, but the people that have the right strategy going into the offer, they're still getting accepted. With a lot of these new buyers, we are seeing them be a little more hesitant, or just maybe not have an understanding of what it takes to get a house. And so they're learning very quickly that if there's a lot of activity, they only go 10,000 over. They're not really gonna have much of a chance. If they have all these contingencies and nothing that's really attractive to the seller, they don't have a chance. And so we have been talking a lot with our buyers of really finding that payment range that's comfortable. Right, understanding if you want your mortgage to be 2,500 and you're looking for a house at 400,000, we might have to talk about properties that are at 350, right? Knowing that we might be pushing some of them. So it's definitely more communication than I've ever seen in my career.
Williams, I called and left a message with you yesterday because I'm working with your clients, Velvet and also Felicia Schum.
You listen to our conversation.
Only if you're not smart enough to mute yourself.
So Charlie mentioned too during the presentation, savings rates down affects ability to make a down payment. I guess for us to know, so that we have conversations with buyers, we're trying to get buyers to talk to you about getting pre-approved, even though they think they maybe aren't ready or don't have what it takes to be approved. Where can people draw from to get down payments outside of like their checking account?
Yeah, great question, and that's why, so we look at their entire asset picture for that reason. A lot of people look at what they've saved up, and that's what they have for down payment. What a lot of people don't realize, and we have a lot of financial advisors that are on call for these questions, is depending on how they have their retirement funds allocated. If it's in a Roth IRA, for example, they can take up to 10,000 penalty free as a first-time homeowner. And a lot of people don't understand that. There's also gifting, right? I try not to be assumptive with that. Many people don't have access to a family member that's going to give them a down payment, but some do, and they don't know that's an option. There's a lot of
limits to that, are there stipulations to it, is it?
There's really not.
So it could be $100,000 gift from.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
anything over 100,000 is seen as an exception, but we've never seen that not to. So gifts can be seen as really minimalist. A lot of old retirement accounts, right? If someone switched jobs 3 years ago and they still have a old 401k that's sitting at 50,000, they might look at just pulling from there. And for some of these people too, they're okay taking the penalty on withdrawing that money to be able to get a house because they see that as a better long-term investment.
Any questions from the lender's side?
Are you seeing like a common thing, or how are appraisals happening on your guys' end as far as like, are you seeing anything under appraised or any trends?
The last the last 6 months, I don't think we've seen a single appraisal.
Okay, awesome.
Again, a lot of times we're seeing them actually come in above the price that they're purchasing at. So there hasn't been any issues there. Now, again, go ahead.
No, it's interesting, we're talking about price, and I think there's actually that came back low, and we kind of had a discussion in front end with the buyers and say, sellers, I think we're pushing list price, we knew that, and we're comfortable with that. People didn't come back, we were budgeting on inspection, sellers thought, I don't need to fix anything, I'm not gonna reduce the purchase price, we camera it walked away, it reduced the price on the market, now they took it off, and they're offering more credits than what we were. So it's interesting that kind of going back to the seller mindset that sometimes they think they're in a better position than others. And I got the impression that agent didn't educate her clients to the extent that just, I mean, we can do that, but you know, this is where we're gonna end up, so.
So that's a good point, because I will say, like with the appraisal gaps, there's a lot of times when I'm having to explain that and buyers aren't fully understanding it. Right, they have 10% put down, that's it. And they're doing 10% of their offer with a $10,000 appraisal gap. And you go, okay, and we gotta slow us down, right? Like, let's talk through this. So we are seeing that, and I don't know if it's because appraisals have been fine and it's not a concern, or if we're just not taking the time to educate. Fortunately, it's never been a KW agent, so that's good, right? But we do see it, like, that is a real scenario, that if it comes in short, that is money that you owe, right? And a lot of times those conversations are happening, and we're having to be the ones to kind of try to.
Cool. Sweet.
Go get it. Keep going.
Eric, Trefford, thanks, guys. Here's the goal of it. The goal of it is shared experiences. And what is it that you're seeing and how do we learn from each other? And how do we create an environment so that you guys can seek feedback as to the experiences you're having within the marketplace to help you win more deals? Make sense? And we're gonna, I mean, it's the second time we've done it. We're gonna keep trying to figure out the curating the right format to this, but we want to provide a space locally so that you guys can bounce ideas off each other and what it is that we got going on.
Yeah,
Cool.
to Charlie's point, like, I take all this information I hear from you guys, I take all the stuff I read on our Facebook group. I don't meet with buyers and sellers every single day. Sometimes I go a week or two without meeting with someone, right? Unfortunately, that's just the reality of it. But when I do have that conversation, I just regurgitate